So apparently Gina Carano woke up and chose violence. Like, she just woke up like, you know what? They can't fire me twice. I'm gonna choose violence today. But hey, big up Gina Carano because if nothing else, she's at least consistent, which is a pretty rare quality these days. Alright, so here's what happened. Gina Carano tweeted out a few days ago, she put out a post that says, "Imagine it's 1981 and the government has mandated that all LGBTQ people have to show papers proving they aren't HIV positive or they won't be allowed on planes, into concerts or dine at restaurants." And then it says, read that again. Well, I'm not going to read that again because we'll be here all day going over that multiple times. So yeah, we're going to leave that there. You can read it again if you want to. But anyway, this got her into a little bit of hot water, but I think Gina's used to that by now. A lot of people say that you can't compare the current pandemic to the AIDS epidemic back in the 80s. What's interesting about it though is that she doesn't actually compare the current pandemic to the AIDS epidemic back in the 80s. We're just kind of assuming that she is, which is pretty much the same thing with the other post that she put up, the one that got her fired, about comparing Jews in Nazi Germany to being a Republican today. She doesn't actually compare the two. We just kind of assume that she does. Now look, let's not be naive about this. I think it is a fair assumption to make. I'm just pointing out that she doesn't actually make that connection herself and that we are just assuming that is what she's doing. But whatever, let's go with that assumption because let's be honest, this probably is what she's talking about. So you can't compare the current pandemic to the AIDS epidemic back in the 80s. Well, you can. Whether or not it's a good idea to compare them, that's a whole other thing. But you can compare them. Now, a lot of people correctly point out that the way AIDS, the HIV is transmitted is vastly different to the way COVID-19 is transmitted. But here's something that some of you young'uns might not know. The post says, imagine it's 1981. Now, when the AIDS epidemic hit in 1981, there was a lot of misinformation going around at the time. Or shall I say misinformation, because at the time, people thought they were facts. And that was things like you can catch it through touching, hugging, kissing. A real popular one was that you can catch it from dirty toilet seats. You can't catch AIDS from dirty toilet seats, but still clean your damn toilets because that's just nasty. In fact, in 1983, 2 years after the pandemic hit, there was an article published in the Journal of the American Medical Association that stated there is a possibility that routine close contact within a household can still spread the disease. Now look, they use the word possibility, which means it's more of a theory. However, the point is, 2 years after the epidemic hit, doctors are still working with theories and not facts. And by the way, that article was written by, drumroll please, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the world's leading virologist, 2 years later, still working with theories and not facts. Now look, I ain't even mad at that, but let me come back to that. Another thing about 1981 that a lot of people like to conveniently forget, it was a very homophobic time. Homophobic, racist, sexist. I mean, these things are still going on, but it was a lot more blatant back then. So with Gina Carano asking us to imagine it's 1981 and the government just issued a mandate that stated all LGBT people have to show proof that they're not HIV positive. If that happened back in 1981, I don't think too many people would have complained about that. Most people probably would have been like, it's fine, it's in the interest of public safety, we just have to do these things because we just can't be sure about certain people. 1981 was a different time, fam. I reckon the only people who would have been upset about it are people from the hold on a second, LGBTQIA2S plus community and their allies, but my guess is that probably wouldn't have been a big enough voice to make any real difference. And by the way, I'm saying LGBTQIA2S plus now, but best believe back in 1981, we had other words for that. It was a different time, fam. But here's the thing, things change. The way we communicate change. The things we understand about life, people, the world changes. What we thought we knew about the LGBTQIA2S plus community back in 1981 is vastly different to what we know now, or at least what we think we know now. Just as what we thought we knew about AIDS and HIV back in 1981 is vastly different to what we know about it in 2021. Our understanding changes, we learn more and we adapt. So the fact that in 1983 Dr. Fauci was still working with theories and not facts, I mean, it just is what it is. I doubt he was deliberately trying to mislead the masses, but like Thanos, he's limited by the technologies of his time. And even in modern times, what we thought we knew about the coronavirus at the beginning of the pandemic is different to what we know about it now. Back in the beginning, we were told things like, oh, don't bother with the mask, just save them for the doctors. Now we're being told, wear a mask. So as time goes on and we learn more and we understand more and we adapt with the hope that we're making things better. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was Gina Carano's point, that the things we know one day is different to the things we know the next day. And the truth is there are no experts because we're all just trying to get through life in the best way we know how. And perhaps we need to remember that the same people we discriminate against is the same people we're championing years later. And perhaps we need to remember that we're all human, we're all going to make mistakes, we're going to get things wrong, or just not know something. And perhaps because of that, it's important to remember to treat people with kindness and compassion rather than anger and animosity because they don't think the same way that you think, or because you know something that they don't know, or they haven't come to the same conclusion that you've come to. Because who knows, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20, 40 years from now, we're going to find out something about this virus that lets us know that everything we knew back in 2021 was completely false. Back in 1981, Pluto was still a planet. All I'm saying is the way we treat people will always say more about you than it does about them. But what do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet. Let me know what you think. Drop any suggestions and recommendations in the comments. Send them through and I'll see what I can do. Like, share, subscribe because we're doing this thing. More videos on the screen. Check out my other channels as well. But that's going to be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace.